at the forefront because we're just getting warmed up at that point. And I know it's really important to have a great hook. I'm just not one of them. This landscaping, the business changes and then they change stuff on the landscape, and this is a drastic difference in change. And this is what a self-identifying versus a self-identifying would be like a hydrogel versus what is the self-assembly, the packs of things. One is in a culminating sense where they collectively engage in things. This has the impetus with how animals, they get like their flocks. There's certain names for animals when they're in their groups, and that's important because we can apply this to self-assembling things. And it's just like with this whole plastic thing, hey, just because you find a plug doesn't mean it works, even though it's the right one. I can't tell you how many times I plugged in a headphone jack and surprisingly it didn't work, or into a smartphone, and this device, the plug it fit in, but it stopped working every time it barely got touched, or not at all. And what this could mean, we're about to find out. Try to figure out if there's anything wrong, and there's these things that are called microplastics, and I think that there's two ways that they're engaged. And so there's a way in identifying, and it isn't specifically binary. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, is we're binary identifying as something. It's colloquializing an entire spectrum, and when you're saying binary, it's, oh, this person, we're in a simulation, of course, at the speed of light is like bandwidth. And so when there's all these quantum options, like what an atom would do, does it let go of its electron or does it keep it? This is a decision in binary. And so you're saying what you're identifying as a binary, it's give me a break, throw me a bone. But no, in identifying with like a plaza, if a business changes in it, you don't really notice because it's all the same shape, and a sign isn't like, it's like 1/50th the size of a plaza. And so this is different than if there's like a rogue business and it's because is like a thesaurus dictionary, but there's table of contents. Whenever I'm like reading something, I just summarize it up as like, wow, this would be a table of context at length. And so when there's like all these things that I think are not said well enough, it's in that thing that I would just label it a table of contents. And so these indexes, I think like beefing up a table of contents to do something that, you know, it hasn't been done yet. There's video games and they're called open world, but if you get an open world video game on different consoles, whether it be a PC, that's a computer, or a handheld mobile device, or a PlayStation, an Xbox, a Super Nintendo, this would be like the game looking different on the different consoles, but using that to its advantage, almost like indexing a table of contents. And why this would be neat would be, it would be like a movie. And so how movies and video games have cutaway scenes, and if you like match up all the cutaway scenes with the videos, then of course it runs as one, but you can tell like where the jump scenes were, where the in-game play are. And like if you just have this on repeat, and instead of like the scenes where it's then gameplay, you would then be putting into like the change of a different console, or just, I don't know, something quirky like that. You would take out the game and be putting it into the other game, but all your consoles are synced up, so it's I don't know, classically in like theater, they said it was like, not halftime show, but they would say it's like like they draw the curtains and then they say, what the hell is it? In court systems, it's called the recess. I don't know the proper name for it. I haven't been to a theater. I mean, like with the ballet and the whole 9 yards, and so long I forget what it's called. Intermission. So like dialing up the all-time intermission would ostensibly be this video game cutscenes where it would change into different councils, and this would of course be, instead of this gameplay, it would just be a movie on a repeat. But it would have like the fixings of if you did have a movie on repeat at the very end, it's like you put in the next one. The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson did it so well, where he panned up the camera at Mordor at the end of the video. So then you go and watch Two Towers because, you know, like its ending was perfect with the first Fellowship of the Ring movie. And so, yeah, like that almost seemed like in video games when you have like the start menu and it's like a screensaver. There's a lot in there. And in the Dead by Daylight start menu, it's got like this strumming of a guitar. And like, it can't get better than certain aspects. ZZ Top, he hit like this southern like guitar riff. And he's like, you can't beat that. And it was true. It was like this riff that like everyone's heard of, and it's like it was just like the core of all like these southern like folk songs. And so like there's these certain genres I was trying to explain on Facebook where like you can't beat it, and it can be in like a certain style, in a certain like rhythm, but mainly with these start menus. You get the style and the rhythm, and so it makes for a great lobby. This is the impetus of elevator music. And do I know what impetus means? I think I mean the essence, but ostensibly it's probably better without even trying it, and that's when you know that you're on something. Hey, here's the point of this video. When someone says the word bottle, a word bottle sounds like it's like accomplished. So like if you've ever seen a glass maker and they make a bottle, it takes a lot of work. But knowing the difference between like what bottles in factories, how they're made versus like a handmade bottle, the difference of these are like how clothes, textiles in factories get made versus like a crochet, not by hand versus in bulk. And there's a giant divide in this where one's not better than the other, especially when it comes to like the McRib. How like it's in a cult following is just because there's like made in mass production. And so to not get confused with the mass production is, and this is this whole thing with socialized medicine, whereas one boot fits all. And that's really the problem, I think, of like the majority of these things. People ask like, what's a super elector? No one knows, but they get to like change their vote ostensibly. And then like these popular votes in electoral college, it's all these things where we get confused with the mass production. These cars are revving today. But back to bottles. So yeah, when someone says a bottle, it's in the back of their head, they think that it's like fancy and it's good, but it's like this bottled water, it's plastic. If you've ever drinking out of a milk jug, it's plastic. Orange juice containers are plastic. And so I've heard that plastic leaches, and so it's just kind of grossing and engrossing with plastic bottles. I want to do like this field study to not make fun of scientists and field studies, but to show them how it's done. So like I traveled to 50 different states and tried the most localized bottled water, and through this exercise yielded these results. And then I can show like how badly I've been like tasted or good that I've tasted them. And with when microplastics are leaching, I think it's because they're being pressed upon, and there's specific ways how cups are pinched inside of cast molds, and it's no surprise given we have certain ways of our bodies are already pressed upon. And so the impetus of this would of course be when the plastics are set loose, and then where do they go from there?